There are small signals that some people notice before others. A classroom that feels a little emptier, an office with slightly older colleagues, a city that feels a bit quieter without a clear reason. It is not a crisis. It is a change of pace, almost imperceptible. For a long time, we took one thing for granted, that a society grows, not only economically, but in the number of people as well. But there is a silent turning point, a moment when, for the first time, there are no longer more people entering than leaving. Nothing dramatic happens, and that is exactly why it is interesting. Here is the central idea worth remembering. When a society stops growing in population, it does not simply become smaller, it starts to behave differently. Projections suggest that many European countries are approaching this moment around the middle of the 2020s, with a peak and then a slow reversal or stabilization, depending on context. This is not a collapse, it is a change in direction, and that change comes after decades of two trends moving together. On one side, birth rates below replacement level. On the other, life expectancy that keeps increasing. The result is not just fewer people, it is a different balance between generations, more years lived, more older people, and fewer new entrants than before. It is like a sea that does not suddenly retreat, but simply stops rising. And when the level no longer rises, many things have to readjust. The hidden constraint is not the number of people. It is the fact that when demographic growth stops, automatic growth stops being the default. As long as a society grows, many choices are driven by expansion. More homes, more schools, more services designed to increase. When growth stabilizes, the incentive changes, not to expand, but to make things work better. This is the second-level effect that is often misunderstood. Many see this phase as a kind of slowing of the future. In reality, it is a gradual shift in priorities, from growing to maintaining. Over time, economies tend to focus more on productivity than on expansion. Services slowly move toward care, health, assistance, and maintenance. Cities stop planning as if they must always spread outward and begin adapting for greater stability. Nothing breaks, but everything recalibrates. Seen through this lens, some feelings become easier to read. Why change sometimes feels slower. Why the word progress sounds different than it did 20 years ago. Why many collective choices become more cautious, less focused on constant forward acceleration. This is not a story of decline, it is a story of transition, a system moving from the idea of more to the idea of better, from expansion to quality, from growth as default to growth as a choice. And when we understand this, anxiety softens slightly, because we stop expecting the same signals as before, and we begin to recognize that the world is not stuck, it is changing shape. A society does not notice its turning point through an announcement. It understands it through details, through how work changes, how cities adapt, how services shift. If Europe enters a phase where the population no longer grows, it is not a failure. It is a change of season, and sometimes naming things for what they are is already the calmest way to feel oriented toward the future.